Hey, welcome back to another episode of No Offense Taken. And today I want to talk about disenfranchised grief. So, the more formal definition of it is a loss that is not openly acknowledged, socially sanctioned, or publicly mourned, often causing individuals to feel isolated, ashamed, or misunderstood. This was coined by Dr. Kenneth Doka in 1989, and I hadn't heard about it until last year, or maybe the year before. And the reason why I want to talk about it is because when I first began sharing different parts of my life, I found that a lot of people who resonated with what I've experienced would approach me and they just be like, "Hey, I just want to say thank you for saying that." And it always kind of had this slightly hushed tone of "Hey, thanks," right? But I just always kind of chalked it up to the fact that discussing mental health, which is what I was discussing the most, people just didn't really know how to discuss it as much because I started sharing about my mental health back in, I attempted self termination in 2012. I think I really started sharing it more after I moved to Denver, which was in 2015, and just being more open. I think I may have also been a little open about it before that because that's also when Instagram was kind of starting to pop off and people were getting onto it more. And so I think that when I was doing all my bodybuilding and discussing my bodybuilding and my fitness, I think at some point I kind of started to bring mental health in. But I really got more into sharing it after I moved to Denver, just because it was becoming more of a thing that I felt comfortable talking about. And I had already gone through therapy before I moved. I had started into SAA, Sex Addicts Anonymous, at that point, and so sharing my habits or my shame points, I'll say, or things that were just really tough to discuss, I had already started getting practice in it. And so I think that that's why I was sharing it more often at that point. But when I met my match at the coming out of this affair, I will say that that's when I really, really, really got to experience disenfranchised grief. And a former friend of mine brought it to my attention because I was just kept saying I don't know why I'm struggling like this. I don't know why I'm struggling like this. I don't know why I can't let this go. I don't know why I can't let this go. And she made it clear you're discussing and you're dealing with disenfranchised grief. And as she was able to explain it to me, it helped me understand that I'm experiencing a loss that technically by other people's standards I shouldn't be mournful about. I don't have the right to feel mournful. I should be happy that it's done, or I need to keep my mourning and my feelings about it under wraps. I need to pretend like it doesn't actually really exist because of the shame aspect of the thing that I did. And I posted on my Instagram, I want to say last month, uh, being honest about some of the feelings that I had on the other side of obedience with regards to making that situation clean. And I had a few people who reached out and they said, "Hey, thank you very much. Keep talking like that, please." Here's the thing. Um, when it comes to something like an affair, affairs happen a lot. Let's just really be honest. Affairs happen a lot, and they're not happening with the same 10 people in this country, right? Or around the world. They happen a lot. There are a lot of men who are cheating, a lot of women who are cheating, a lot of women who are the mistress, a lot of men who are the misters. I actually know what they're called. There are a lot of adulterers out here, both the vowed and the non-vowed and the vowed and vowed and all of the different ways that it shows up. And some people know it and some people don't. And some people find out and then they keep going. And some people, find out and then they stop. There's so many layers to it. And so I always have, before I even was in this situation, I always have found it a bit odd and hypocritical to an extent that people will, especially women, will act as if it's such a rarity and that they also potentially have not been ever in a situation where that their morals were being compromised, um, or if maybe they would have made a similar decision, things like that. It's funny because I did have some people say, listen, like if this person didn't have kids, I wouldn't really say anything. And I think like the way that we have standards around what is acceptable and what's not is always funny. However, I only had a few people that I could really share my grief and my struggle through letting go of this person, because I knew that you can't say I was actively in an affair for on and off for 2.5 years, more on than off. I fell in love with this person. This person said that they loved me. If the relationship was not a full relationship, right? But it was 60-70% there, right? And I'm sad, I'm heartbroken, and I'm going through the same parts of a breakup, except on top of that, I'm not supposed to be. I'm not allowed to feel sad. And I'm not supposed to feel sad. And I'm also supposed to, this person that I knew who they were through this, and yet the feelings that we had um, made me not paint this person with such a bad brush. But now that I ended it and that the situation's been made clean and whatever, now I'm supposed to say, well, this guy sucks a lot actually, and he's the devil, and and like I just can't get there. And while it's not the same thing, there are a lot of examples of people who have disenfranchised grief in relationships, in life, whatever it may be. I know, again, it's not the same, but I know that people who leave abusers, everybody is going to harp on how awful that partner was because they were an abuser. And yet, the person who was being abused, while they may feel freedom, while they may feel like they are safe and secure now, it is silly to think that they're not also going to have some grief around what could have been, what they thought was supposed to be, or even the person that was abusing them. Like, there were decent qualities about this person at some point. And we act as if it's actually like very offensive if someone doesn't just snap away from a situation that maybe they shouldn't have been in, or that you really should get out of it and you should know better and you should and you should and you should. And when a person finally removes themselves from a situation that's either very toxic or very dangerous or very sinful, we then also place this pressure on and then get over it right away. Because if you were looking at this clearly, with a clear head, you wouldn't be sad about this. You wouldn't be sad about him. Why on earth would you be sad about a guy that is willing to cheat on his wife that he had 2 kids with? Why would you? Why, like, that's obviously a really bad guy. But the reality is that that's not where my heart has ever gotten to. I don't know if it will ever get there, because of the relationship that took place. It mattered, and it felt real, and I felt really cared for and loved, and in a way that I hadn't experienced before. Now, that doesn't mean this person was whole with me. Doesn't mean that I get to be so mournful and disrespectful to the reality of what happened here, right? Like there's a wife that found out, and she may or may not have glossed over it. She may still be dealing with it. There are all these things that I don't know about. I can only speak from my space, but we don't help anybody. And I'll say this, inside or outside of the church, when we treat their mourning and their grief as if it should not exist because of the judgments that we have created about the situation that they were in that created their pain. And it happens a lot. It happens a lot because we're outside of it and we think this, like, dude, if you just could see this clearly though. And we act like we've never experienced a pain that we couldn't quite just put down, or that because of certain circumstances, the pain got elongated. The truth is that people who go through disenfranchised grief actually do have a longer period of mourning and recovery because of all the external elements that come into play and place more on top of it. So while at the same time that, and I will talk about myself obviously, the same time that I was just going through a normal like heartbreak of I loved this person, I still feel love for this person, I miss them, I miss talking to them, I miss seeing them, I miss hugging them. But also, I guess I'm like a really bad person for feeling that way. And I sinned, and I don't feel bad about this sin because I was being loved, but I know I should feel bad about the sin. And I feel bad about the situation morally. Like I do. However, I still feel sad for myself. And you know, you go through every single emotion comes with a slap, you know, like a handshake and then a punch. That's a reasonable feeling. You should let it go. That's a reasonable thought. Like, get it out of there, right? That's how it always feels. And it will feel it because you can't allow yourself to sit with a feeling and truly process it as it exists. You elongate the entire process. And I've sometimes been curious if that's part of, for me, the sin, right? Like I am a believer, and it is true that when you sin, it doesn't just like it gets washed away when you seek forgiveness and you repent. But God isn't just like, hey, you crazy kid, don't do that again. Nothing ever, there's no repercussion in any way, shape, or form. Oftentimes our repercussions are things that truly just are a part of reality, right? If I say that I'm going to do something and I lie and I don't do it, then whoever I lied against will be upset. That's a repercussion. And at times I've wondered, like, what repercussion have I sustained for this? Some people would look at the past 2 years and say, well, that's probably it, right? Like you lost your job, you were in a car accident, your dog died, you've been broke, you've been sad, you've been heartbroken, all those things. And those aren't direct repercussions in the world of what I did. It's not like my boss knew about the affair. It's not like the person who ran the red light knew about the affair, was coming for me. So then sometimes I think, well, maybe this is part of the sin. I do truly believe that because when I moved to St. Pete, the location that I chose, it's a few blocks from this person's office, which is what facilitated it starting back up. But when before it was 100% completely done, I found myself living in a level of anxiety I had never experienced. And it wasn't attack anxiety. It was like, I'm constantly afraid of what can be outside of my door. I was constantly afraid of running into him and his wife, running into his wife, running to his kids, just being confronted with seeing this family that he had that I didn't have to ever see when I lived in Chicago. It made his world and my world and our world all so separate to an extent. And so I do think, because I spent a year and a half constantly fearful of all of it, and especially after he introduced me to his kids, I was terrified of running into his wife with the kids and what were they going to say. And even though I had ended it at that point, like, I was terrified. I was terrified. And I do believe 100% that that was a thorn that God gave me. I can't say that the things that have happened in my life are because God was making me pay for my sin. But I don't know. I literally don't know. And there will be people who will say that's not how God works. And then there will be people who say that is kind of how God works. And these are one of those moments where I don't need that answer. I know how God brought me closer to him through the past 2 years, and that's literally all that matters to me. But when you are going through disenfranchised grief, everything just piles, and you're working through things at a much slower pace because you don't feel like you deserve to grieve. You don't deserve to hold space for a person in the way that you knew them. You don't deserve to say, this makes me sad. Now, I'm saying this and it's not true. If you are going through anything where you have ended a relationship with somebody for any reason, and you know that it wasn't supposed to be taking place, or the people around you are like, this person sucks, and you're like, yeah, no, they definitely suck, but then like your heart is like, and I miss them. Please hear me. You deserve to feel every single feeling. You deserve to have grief. You deserve to grieve the way that someone made you feel. You deserve to grieve the experience that you had that made you happy. You deserve to grieve the things about that person that, like, you just, sometimes it comes up, the way, little mannerisms, or the things that they said that kind of made you chuckle, or just how it felt when they did hug you or were laying next to you. Like, those are all things that are in your memory bank that imprinted, that at different times made you think like, ugh, I could be here all day, because they are a part of your history and they're part of you. And outside of that, however this person showed up, that's real and it's a part of the story, but it's also separate from the way that your soul and your heart and your mind take things in. Because it's okay if someone made you feel like you mattered. And you don't have to say, but it wasn't real because they didn't even mean it, because I'm stupid that I felt this way, because please stop doing that. Because I did that for a while. And it didn't match up. Because I know that when I looked at this person and I saw the day, like I remember it as clear as day, of like, oh crap, this person loves me. And it's the first time that anybody had ever looked at me like that. And I'm allowed to have that. Because the other thing that I remind myself, and I don't know if you will relate to this, is that there really will be a day where someone looks at me like that again, and then they look like that at me every single day after, till I die. A friend reminded me of this. If I could love somebody in this situation the way that I did, as wholly and as just enthusiastically as I loved this person, someone that wasn't even properly mine, and let's be honest, wasn't even properly anybody's, how much more will I love the person that God has for me? And if you can feel that level of love from somebody, and it can just like refill your tank, how much more will that be from the person that's supposed to love you? The person that makes you feel secure and amazing and all of the things, right? The person that God has for you. And I have to keep that in my pocket, because there are days, even still, because I ended things with this person January of 2025. And everything that God had asked of me in my obedience was in October of 2025. So, I have some time now. And there's still days, honestly, where I miss his smile. I miss his smell. And I think once I gave up disenfranchising myself, I was able to hold my heart differently as I went through that grief. If you do not have people around you who you feel safe to share the grief that you're going through, and let's be clear, it can also be, I risked everything to move to a different country. Everybody told me that it was a bad idea, that I wasn't ready, whatever it is. And then I got there, and then it was a bad idea. And now I'm depressed, and I'm sad, and I feel lonely, and I had to tuck tail and come back. That's the same thing. Because how can you tell people, man, I'm really sad that this didn't work out, if the people around you are going to say, well, I told you not to do it. Like, that's an example of disenfranchised grief that doesn't revolve around a person. Because the other side of disenfranchised grief is, sure, it's like a loss of being able to properly grieve because of external judgment or self-shame, but it's also a grieving of what I thought could be. And while in my situation, there really wasn't a future that I dreamt of, I didn't. For people who enter relationships, and there are red flags, but this person has just never been loved the way that they are with this guy or woman, and then they start to abuse them. You are going to 100% be grieving the future that you thought, that you bought into when this person was masking. Before this person showed that they are physically violent, before this person showed that they're narcissistic, before this person showed that they just didn't have the capacity, and they masked really, really well at the start. And I know that we live in such a judgmental environment. Heck, I was scrolling last night, and this person posted that they had a baby, and they named the baby, if I'm being real, not a good name. It was like 4 ridiculous names. It was a biracial kid, and they named her Safari, but also spelled weird. Don't do that. That's weird. And people just drag them. In 20 years, this kid is going to change their name. Why would you name your kid this? This is dumb. Like, it's like our first instinct is to judge. And I have to remind myself that, first of all, the God that I follow and the Father that I have, He lovingly reminds me that I don't need to be in some situations. And if I'm sticking with Him enough, before He says it, something in me says it. I'm convicted. I go, this doesn't feel right. And then when I am going through my grief, because I will say this, I think that something that God did for me was place some people around me that gave me this space to be mournful, that listened to me, because the number one thing I would say that I felt like I couldn't do, I could say this hurt and this sucked and I don't know how to get through it, and I don't know how long this is going to take. And the core group of my friends were like, no, I know. And then I had the opportunity once where I was like, I just wish that I could talk about him and about us the way I want to. And my friend said, okay, go ahead. And I got to replay moments that I didn't get to tell anybody when they were happening. Oh, he did this really cute thing this one time, and I don't know, just like really made me feel. And, we were here once and this happened, and it was like really ridiculous. And the normal stories that people get to share of their relationships that I couldn't tell anybody at all when they were happening, because I can't boast about how cute this was, or how adorable he was here, or how funny, or oh my goodness, and it was such a wild thing, to a friend that is saying, dude, this is somebody's wife or husband. Dude, what are you talking about? Oh, he's so cute. He's a cheater. He's a bad person. How dare you delight in the love that he's given you when that should be given to his wife? And that's true. But also, those were my experiences. And I'll tell you, when I got the opportunity to sit down with a friend and say those things, it allowed me to say, okay, there are parts of this that I'll hold, that will just be there. Not hold on to, but like, I don't have to demonize him and myself. Because I can't demonize just myself. I can't demonize him and not myself. But I also maybe don't have to demonize anybody. Maybe we're just two people who, whatever. And at least God called me back to him. And I can't speak for the other party. And the way that God works is very wild. What I have learned so clearly about God is that you think you're on a path and God has another plan. There's a detour and you drive it and it gets a little rocky because you're on a dirt road, and then you get back on the path. And God is so funny. He's mysterious. And when in actuality, it's you're driving on a path and then a rock falls in the middle of it and you drive the car off the cliff, and then somehow you have a parachute, but it sends you to a different country, and then wolves eat all the food around you, and then somehow you're on a pirate ship. Like, that's how it feels like for me that God works, because there is no way that anything I'm experiencing, there's no world where I could have even drawn the line between these things. It reminds me of Joseph always. There's no world where this makes sense. And it just almost feels like just throwing darts of possible things that somehow also get the same result. And I kind of love that about God, because when you think that you have it kind of figured out, it really is not. And I go into that like tangent because there's no world where I would have thought I'd be sitting here sharing this, because I don't get to talk about this. I don't get to advocate for myself or for you if you are experiencing disenfranchised grief. I don't get to do that. But I am. Because this is real. And for us to act like it's not, and us to act like the feelings that can take place in a relationship that isn't healthy, isn't full, isn't whatever, like those feelings just don't exist. That's silly. And I love that I do have a father. I follow somebody that they allow for my grief, no matter where it comes from. There's no world where Jesus says, I'm so glad that you've come back to me. Please don't say that person's name again because, oh, so awful. You really shouldn't have been doing that. So I need you to just get over it. Just bypass it. That's just not how my God works. And I'm so thankful for it because the nights and the days where I was crying and I'm saying, God, I do not know why I still have love for this person. God, if there's anything that I can ask of you, it is to take this person out of my heart completely. Do not let me think their name. Anything in me that still desires them, just remove it, please, 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 please. And God is like, that's just not like how that works. Because you're grieving. And you're allowed to. It's okay. And there's so many things that are judged so harshly. That means that we don't get to fully experience all of our emotions around it. And I want to remind you that that's not how that's supposed to go. Every experience comes with its good and its bad. And you are allowed to absolutely rejoice in the good. And you're allowed to absolutely mourn and despair the bad. You're allowed to go through this as quickly as you want. And you're allowed to go through it as slowly as it takes. And there will be people around you that will not understand. And they won't seek to understand. And they won't be able to let go of their own personal offense at, I can't believe you are still X. I can't believe that you even went. I can't believe that you are grieving this. I know in the past I've been judgmental of people who stayed in abusive relationships. And I've been judgmental of people who would still speak fondly of the person that abused them. Because in my head, like, chick, this man hit you. But I didn't understand that I was placing my judgment of how they should have operated in a situation that I had never been in. Not taking into account the vast amount of emotions and then plus the external judgment of how they should be showing up for themselves or their kids or their pets or whatever it may be. And when you place shame on yourself because you feel it and face it from the outside, it makes everything so much harder. And you do not deserve that. No one deserves that. Shame will root you down into the most toxic feelings and versions of yourself. And why on earth, if you are already in a situation that doesn't scream lots of self-worth, do you deserve to be beaten down more by your own voice? Because people who will judge you, friends and external, you can ignore them. You can get away from them. It's the voice in here, it's the voice in your head that will keep you paralyzed and stuck. The one that says, when you're crying and saying, why do I miss this person? There will be a voice that says, because you're dumb. And because, I don't know, you're weak. And you stop crying. You're not his wife. You knew what was going to happen here. And for people who are in different circumstances that maybe you didn't know, I guarantee you're like, I guess I should have looked at the writing on the wall. I guess I should have seen the red flags. I was. And so when I talk about disenfranchised grief, what I'm talking about really and what is honestly being done here is a lack of ability to grieve real life and real emotions and real things that took place that mean something to somebody because of the offense of other people. Because other people are so offended for a myriad of reasons that they have to throw it at you, that you shame yourself. into quiet and isolation. And I know that people will always judge me. And I know that there are people who can't help but be so angry and judgmental of what I participated in because they were on the other end of it. They were the wife. And it's so fresh and it's so bad and it's so big for them. I know that. And the only thing that I can do is understand that I'll never get to speak to them. I get to speak to the people who have found themselves in similar emotion situations that I have experienced and are now in the space of, I guess I don't get to mourn this. I guess I have to let this go. I have to act like this situation and this plan and this person. Yeah, it was really bad. They are really bad. It was a bad decision. It was a bad move. Even if my heart doesn't say that yet. I need you to know that, like, especially if you're a follower of God, God will move you through that grief faster than you think is possible. Because if you're there, you're probably thinking this is just going to sit here forever. I honestly really thought, man, I'm just gonna be grieving this person forever, the way that, how big it feels. But he also will give you the space and the time because he has grace for you. And he will say, take your time. My child, take your time. I know this hurts. If I could just hold your heart and rip it all out, but this is important. I want to encourage you, even if you're not a follower of God, seek something that can allow that to happen for you, and find people in your life that will say, hey, I know that move across the country, everybody told you not to do it, and then you did it and it didn't work out, and now you can't sit here and talk about it. But I want to hear the good. Like, can you share anything you want with me? If you don't have people like that in your life, please make an effort to find them, because those are the people that will help you so much. Do not allow other people's offense to dictate how you move through your own experiences and your own grief. And please learn what disenfranchised grief is. If you're feeling anything like I described, I can't share how I feel. I can't probably mourn this. I feel isolated because I'm going through stuff and no one will understand. Because the other side is that I always have to remind myself that technically he is experiencing that as well. And then if his wife is like, it's fine, we're gonna work through this and I'm here, people at some point she'll have that too. Because how could you stay with a man that would cheat multiple times and then like that? And then if he ever does it again, I mean, you can't even feel bad for it, right? The third time may be the charm for her, you know? And so because of the situation I was in, 3 people are going to experience this one thing. And they're all from different perspectives. And I think we just should be talking about that more, because more of us, now we have people who voted a certain way and they're waking up to, oh, I voted for this man and it's not working out. And this hurts and this sucks. And no one will give them grace on it. Not one person. That's a different type. We're learning more avenues of different disenfranchised grief. And so I think that, yeah, we have to talk about it more. I just wanted to share that one with you. If you have any questions or comments, DM me on Instagram at SAHips. I would love to hear feedback, whether it's good or bad. And I would love to hear questions. And if you have thoughts of, hey, like, I would like to hear your thoughts on this type of offense or whatever, please share that as well. Otherwise, have an amazing, amazing week.
And thank you for listening. This is no offense taken.